Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Charlie Waters. Our next speaker is Dr. Charlie Waters. He's a friend of Joe Vang, a friend of Vang, and also consultant to the SGU.
Good afternoon, my brothers and sisters Hmong. I've been silently listening to all of the different speakers today, and what is left to say? A person that his people loved. The general has gone. We must honor him and remember everything that he did for all of us. Those of you that he brought to this country who have made incredible strides in life, especially the young Hmong that have joined the services, the young Hmong that have gone on to college, the young ones that are going on in life achieving tremendous goals. But I'm going to ask everyone here, within the sound of my voice, to remember, as obstacles come up in Congress or obstacles come up in our life, if you unite and stay together, we can win, no matter what it is. But it must be unity. When you have situations that came up like this year's New Year's, it must be talked out and discussed and ended and one New Year. The Hmong must show unity. We are working hard to pass some laws in Congress for your veterans, our veterans. They're now Americans. We must give them a national burial. We must respect them. We must help their widows. We must help the young people. That is what is important. You are making incredible headway, but you must not allow individuals to come in and be self-appointed leaders. You must have leadership that is decisive, that will move and move in a hurry in instances. And that is what counts. That is how you win. That is how you grow. That is how you accomplish things in life. The general was that way. General Vang Pao, when he had an issue, he thought it over, he got the facts, and he moved. And you must continue to show that. But you must unify. You must remain together. That is something that's very, very important. And as I told you earlier, if you are all together as one united community, you can vote people into office. You can vote people out of office. You can have bills passed, because there's nothing more dangerous to a politician than a group that has a lot of votes. A lot of votes, that's what they look for. And you have a loud, loud voice. We're here to say goodbye to the General. He is an extraordinary man, and those of us that knew him will miss him, and his memory will be with us always. I want all of you to look to my right. Up here, there's a picture. That's a general looking over his people. That is what he did his entire life. He looked over his people. He protected his people. He worked for his people. He loved his people. This is one of the most inspiring pictures I've ever seen in my life. And that is your General Vang right there. So let's remember him. Let's remember Ms. Song and the family in our prayers. And let's remember the lessons that this great man taught us. He was a general, he was a statesman, but above all, he was a great human being. And he left his footprints on this planet. How do we know that? 24 children. Lots and lots of grandchildren, great-grandchildren. They will carry on his legacy. So he left a mark on this planet for sure. And he left a mark in history with America, with the Hmong. So thank you very much. We'll come to the services. We'll pray. We'll remember him in our prayers. And the family, Maison, all of the boys, and the girls. We can't forget them. So thank you very much. And let's let you get on with your service. But I'll never, ever forget the General. What a strong, wonderful human being he was. And I'm sure when history is written, he will be one of the most revered Hmong generals in history. He certainly has made it. He certainly has made it and worth it. Thank you. You're my guys. You're my troops. We love you all. Okay? Thank you.
Luchata minji dobe chone tsigidin ja shada memo ke ja zine topic ya guest speaker la hailu ta na je thatsi bechi pumbote che yo yong de yo pe li ja la bechi pumbote thatsin da betu khoa wo yo la hailu chonji tande ma ya honorable Cray Deering, former Assistant Secretary of Air Force for Main Power and Reserve Affairs.
Thank you very much. Well, I really hope that the young folks are listening. I hope that they're here. I hope they're watching the screens and they're listening to what the speakers are saying. I'm going to follow the example of my good friend Art Cornelius, a fellow Raven, and talk about what living and working with the Hmong and with General Vang meant to me and what it did for me. As As mentioned, my name is Craig Deering, and I lived at Long Chen from April 1970 until March of 1971. Now you got to remember, at that time, I didn't have gray hair. I was a lot younger, like so many of you. I was 25 years old, barely out of college, barely completed pilot training, and now off to war. During the time I was there, I flew hundreds of combat missions in support of General Vang and the Hmong army in the vicinity of the Plain of Jars. I would like to briefly tell you what my association with General Vang meant to me, both as a Raven forward air controller in Laos and in the years that followed. As I said, I arrived in Long Chen in mid-April 1970, and on the very first day, I flew 3 sorties in both the O-1 and the AT-28. On the final sortie of the very first day, Captain Yang Bi and I helped the Hmong defenders defeat a very large North Vietnamese unit that had attacked their outpost at Zengdet. It was a tough but realistic introduction to the intense war that was raging near Long Chen at that time. Situation for General Vang and the heroic Hmong army that we were privileged to be a part of. On the evening of the second day, Jerry Ryan, the AOC commander, took me to General Vang Pau's house for dinner. Now, Jerry, who died 1 year ago, was a remarkable pilot, an air commando from the ground up, who was asked by General Vang to run the air support mission for his army. Jerry was a combat veteran in the A-1 Skyraider, and later in the year, he led the A-1s on the famous San Tay raid into North Vietnam. General Vang was a legend throughout Southeast Asia. I had first read about him in Bernard Fall's famous 1967 book about Dien Bien Phu, called Hell in a Very Small Place. In it, the French author mentioned that, quote, a commando force under Lieutenant Colonel Mollet had moved deeply into Viet Minh territory in 3 groups. Group B was commanded by Lieutenant Vang Hmong tribal leader and regular French officer. He added, by way of explanation, that Lieutenant Vang would become one of a very few Laotian leaders to give a good account of himself in guerrilla warfare. By the time I arrived in South Vietnam in 1969, everyone on the battlefield had heard something about this fierce warrior who had been fighting communists while most of us were still in elementary school. I was very excited to be able to meet the great man at last. I changed into my clean clothes, and we drove the very short distance to VP's house in Jerry's Jeep. We walked up to the door where the general was talking and waited for him to notice us. Jerry, my friend, welcome to my house, the general began. General Vang I would like to introduce our newest Raven, Raven 27. As I had practiced, I joined my hands together at the fingertips and raised them up above my eyes with a slight bow, in the Buddhist tradition of showing respect to a high-ranking individual. But simultaneously, the general stuck out his hand to shake mine. Well, then we both changed what we were doing. He joined his hands together, and I held out my hand. We tried once more to coordinate our greetings, and finally, with a laugh, he grabbed my flailing hand and shook it firmly. Welcome, he said. Come inside. As the months passed, I melted into the fabric of the war itself. I was not alone. Along with my fellow ravens, I made many Lao and Hmong friends. They flew with me in the sun and through the driving rain, and we faced the enemy's bullets and rockets on a daily basis. We took chances, and we flew long and hard, often logging more than 8 hours of tough flying in a single day. Wherever we flew, it seemed like General Vang was already there. In fact, he seemed to be everywhere. I have never met a leader before or since who spent more time in the front lines with his soldiers than did General Vang. His energy was boundless. He also had the amazing ability to deal with the simplest issues, such as an argument among villagers, and then immediately transition to discussing what kind of air support he needed for the next day in an attack that he was planning. Many times when I was a guest at his house, it seemed as though the place was in chaos, with people running this way and that. Yet in the center, here was this giant, working through the storm with confidence, vision, and decisiveness. Did he get angry? Yes. Did he despair? Yes, but only for a short while. His ability to make lemonade out of lemons was truly inspirational. As the months passed, I saw that same incredible fighting spirit that was exuded by this man clearly visible in my Hmong friends. I often wondered, did they continue to fight day after day because of him, or was it something much deeper, something that was planted in the hearts of every Hmong baby when he or she came into the world? That spirit of independence, that love of family and freedom, attracted me to my Hmong friends. Because of your example, I worked harder, and I fought harder, and I became a better American, an activist, one who would not sit back while lesser men eroded my God-given rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So much of what I am today is because of my experience with General Vang and the Hmong during my youth. 50 years ago, President Kennedy uttered the immortal challenge, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." There is no doubt that General Vang felt the same way about his country, his family, and his people, well before the President challenged us in the same way. Today, we are all Americans, and we all live together in America. It was not what many of you wanted, but America is greater for your presence. In closing, I want you to know that I searched diligently for some way to sum up my feelings for this man. As so often happens, I turned to Shakespeare, Act 1, Scene 2 of Hamlet. The young prince describes his father in these words: "He was a man. Take him for all in all. I shall not look upon his like again." Rest in peace, General.
Dr. Jane Hamilton, married. Muya itu sawvdaws hai cha pe chi ta le pon thia pe ja kitin jan mong Lucia wa try tom la te o molumbe with the tragic mountains. Our next speaker is Dr. Jane Hamilton, married, the author of Tragic Mountains. Please welcome.
Najam. As I look around me and I see the Hmong world community descending to our space this afternoon to honor you, General Vang Khom. We have come here today from places like Padang, Skyline, PDJ, Bumlong, Salapukun, Mungsui, Mungkasi, Longcheng. We have come, General, to be with you. We have come from the battlefields of Southeast Asia through our long journey to this country. There was a very special event that occurred this morning while we were waiting along the streets. As you approached the convention center, I was standing with the Hmong policeman from Fresno, and we looked up, and what should we see circling directly overhead? For sure, in your honor, an eagle. An eagle. Our sadness is certainly great. Our remembrances are greater. And I particularly want to say to Mei Song and to Sheneng all the comfort and the home that you made for General Vang Khom during his trying years in this country. It was a wonderful home, and you, Sheneng, and Mei Song and Zia meant so much to the General. General Vang Khom was an officer and a gentleman. He was a loud patriot, which you've heard repeated many times. An American patriot, a lover of democracy and freedom, blessed with a very keen mind, spellbinding oratory skills, fluent in 5 languages, a sense of world history and long history. And as he became a soldier when he was only 13 years of age, his life throughout was always that of a soldier. He had the unique ability to outthink his enemy, as the men who served with him have told you repeatedly today. He was able to outmaneuver and outwit and outfight the very famous General Giap of North Vietnam, an important story little known in the West. General Vang Khom, famous for his generosity, his hospitality, and a passion to help his comrades, to help the Lao King, the Lao Kingdom, the Americans, and of course, his own people. However, he was tough-minded and often stubborn. During the war, he disagreed often with U.S. military personnel on their policy when he thought the Americans just did not understand what was going on the ground. However, he was very humble, down to earth, and as someone pointed out to me this morning in the procession, looked right at me and said, you know, we love General Vang Khom because he never said, hey, look, I'm the general here, you better listen to me. He never did that. He never ordered people around. He would say, maybe we should do it this way. As you well know, those of you who fought along with the general, many of you in this room today, that you and your commander, General Vang Khom, managed to capture billions of dollars of military equipment They were heading for South Vietnam, which had been used against Americans in the South Vietnamese. You and the general, for over 10 years, fought the North Vietnamese troops to protect not only Hmong homeland, but the Lao towns in the Mekong River Valley. General Vamkhom repeatedly said that it was his duty to protect his country. He also protected the borders of Thailand, so he could be considered his duty to help there as well. And as the men before myself have told you about his rescue of American pilots, the intelligence, the roadwatch teams, and fighting General Giap to a standstill in northern Laos for 10 years. 10 years, plus being a civilian leader at the time. What an incredible man. How lucky we were to have that man a part of our lives, to have known him, to shaken his hand, to have sat at his table, to listen to a tale. We were very lucky. General Vamkhom is a significant figure in Lao history, also in Hmong history, U.S. military history, Lao history, and even, I'm sure, one day in Vietnamese history, when the Vietnamese are prepared to talk about how the Hmong forces in Laos defeated General Giap repeatedly over many years. History will say, from 1961 to 1973, General Vamkhom and his forces were the American boots on the ground in the effort to keep Laos from falling to communism. You know that big long wall in Washington, that big long black wall with all the American soldiers' names on it that died during the time of the Vietnam War? That long, long list. If it hadn't been for General Vamkhom and the men sitting in this room today who fought alongside the general, thousands and thousands of more names would be added to that long back wall. History will conclude that General Vamkhom was one of the great generals in the Vietnam War. However, it did not end in victory. It ended in defeat and exile, a very sad story. However, General Vamkhom always remained a military commander. Remember that our U.S. refugee policy was to take those Hmong as refugees into this country who had served with General Vamkhom and their families, and those who had worked with other American agencies. Those were the policy rules for the Hmong resettlement. So when in effect happened with the Hmong resettlement then, many Hmong, not all, because not all escaped, many were killed in the fighting after the war when the retributions took place against the Hmong, ended up being resettled in this country. And one by one, his soldiers' families were resettled here. One by one, his army came together again. One shipment of refugees after another, and those who had survived, those who had fought with the general for so long, were now in place in this country. And he, the commander, it was his duty to look after those who served with him. And that's exactly what he did. Hmong refugees arriving in this country were penniless, suffering from years of warfare, the loss of loved ones left behind, unable to speak English in most cases. Hmong refugees found themselves in an unfamiliar and frightening environment. The burden of leading the resettlement of his fellow Hmong soldiers and their families into the United States fell upon the soldiers on the shoulders and the heart. of General Vang Pao. Those difficult years, those resettlement years, beginning in 1979 through the 1980s, were fraught with sadness and tragedy, misunderstandings, prejudice, alienation, hopelessness, fear, guilt, and of course, post-traumatic stress syndrome for the veterans, and some people were victims of yellow rain. I observed General Vang Pao in those years as a man devoted to helping his people. He held a clear understanding of the suffering they had endured. Watching him present the Hmong and their needs on Capitol Hill to the members of the U.S. Congress, I observed an individual skilled in diplomacy. In fact, he often chose French diplomatic phrases to make his major points to members of Congress. Always the gentleman, General Vang Pao spoke not of himself, but of his fellow countrymen and their needs. His unselfishness was obvious. His unending energy was inspirational. His patience in listening to the sad plight of many, particularly the elderly and Hmong, demonstrated great compassion. His unending sense of personal responsibility to help his fellow Hmong was known to all. In spite of the tragedies and what must have seemed overwhelming problems, General Vang Pao never lost his wit, his sense of humor, and that wonderful smile, nor his ability to laugh at himself or his own mistakes he made in his new environment. His ability to see above the crisis and to look down, to observe with historical perspective, was a welcoming gift to those who had almost lost hope. Always the General urged everyone to get off welfare, get off as soon as possible, get a job. He urged the young not only to go to school, but to excel in school. Consistently, he pushed Hmong to better themselves, to study harder, to work harder, to learn and understand the laws and regulations of the states in which they lived. His obvious oratory skills were critical in bringing the community together. General Vang Pao imagined centers in various Hmong communities to act as local helpers in what I call the difficult years, those first years of resettlement, and thus came the Lao family community. But following the difficult years, as Hmong families became more familiar with life in the U.S., children reached high levels of education, and many of his former soldiers and their wives now held jobs. The general spoke to the large Hmong audiences. He often told them how proud he was of them. He would look at them and say, "How handsome you look, how beautiful you look, and how much you've accomplished in such a short time that you've been in this country." I heard him say one time, "We've only been here 13 years. That's like being 13 years old. And look what we've accomplished in those 13 years." At times like this, I could see glistens of tears in the general's eyes, glistens of pride. At these meetings, he praised Hmong successes while always urging everyone to be better, to become better citizens. His persistent strength to deal with all the monumental human issues was comforting and a source of hope for those who seemed so hopeless. His boundless energy, his ceaseless efforts to make life better for those who had resettled here and for those left behind in Laos, was a reservoir of hope that one day life would be better. In the long, long course of Hmong history, over the thousands of years of Hmong history, we know that there are times that extraordinary Hmong have emerged to meet the challenge of the crisis facing the Hmong at that time. Hmong history will certainly identify General Vang Pao as the Hmong person of the 20th century. General Vamkhom didn't ask for the roles and assignments that history bestowed upon him. He didn't ask for them, but he responded to history's challenges, whether on the battlefields of Southeast Asia, or in the halls of the U.S. Congress, or at the United Nations, or in Europe, or with the United Nations in Europe. He responded with courage. He was absolutely fearless. He was determined, always went forward with valor and foresight. Even while in Sacramento, during the dark days and weeks of the Sacramento case, General Vamkhom remained a soldier, a commander who stood straight and tall and determined, facing the unknown with valor and courage. We all wonder what our epitaph might be, that which would be on our gravestone, that which people will remember us by. Maybe General Vamkhom's eternal epitaph might be found in the words that were emailed to me by a 25-year-old Hmong American, a young man, born here in the United States, a graduate of the University of Wisconsin at Madison. He had just learned of the general's passing, and he emailed me these words. Listen carefully. This is what he emailed to me. We just lost the general. Tonight is a very historic night. In just a few generations, my people have gone from an illiterate minority group who are not even second-class citizens in a poor, corrupt, third-world country to a group that is thriving in the world's greatest for General Vamkhom. All successful Hmong in America today owe gratitude to the son of a hill tribe farmer who showed the world that we could compete with the best. So General Vamkhom, your soldiers are here, their children are here, their grandchildren are here. Your friends from around have gathered here to give you your final salutes. For you are an extraordinary human being, an extraordinary leader, an extraordinary man, and we are also grateful that you in some way touched each of us in this room and made us better as a result. We salute you. Watch out.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. Is that yours?
Maybe.
Not for sure. Take it. It's yours.
Thank you. 為了活出生有了愛路從此等待那Bob Noble, Air America. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest speaker will be Bob Noble, presenting by Air America.
Thank you.
Thank you to the Vang family, family relatives, SGU, and the Hmong people for allowing me to express condolences from my Air America colleagues. It is an honor to be here with you and talk about a great man, General Vang Pao. I would like to acknowledge the Sky personnel, the Ravens, Air Commanders, who are also part of our Laos experience. As a young man, it was my privilege to know General Vang Pao and participate in his fight for the right of the Hmong people to live in peace, as well as become our ally in the Vietnam War. I can see this energetic, charismatic man running to my helicopter to catch a ride to Lima Site 32, Bana, Salapakun, and other villages that were threatened by the enemy attack. He would sit next to me and ask me about my life, my family. Thus began our conversations. His compassion in a time of great turmoil left me aware of this man's love for his family and his people, which governed his life and was a great force, made him a great leader. Taking Vang Pao to the Plain of Jars and other hot spots was an amazing experience. Just watching his presence changed the tide of war. He would jump out of my helicopter and I would observe his actions and leadership as he governed his troops and led them forward. My Air America comrades and I fought, bled, and died with you. I have personally comforted, tended your wounded, and returned your honored dead to their families and villages. This is the sorrow part of war. One of our pilots, Captain Jack Knotts, brought General Vang Pao and Jerry Daniels out of Long Chen. In the aftermath, Vang Pao still led his people. He brought them to the United States. It was my privilege to address 2,000 Hmong at your New Year's celebration in Seattle, Washington, at the Seattle Center a few years ago. Seeing your young people full of life, performing the traditional ball toss ritual took me right back to Long Chen, where I first experienced it. I had a speech prepared, but reading about your fathers and grandfathers from Laos, the escape, which were mounted on long boards in the center by SGU veterans, changed my direction entirely. In the end, all I could say is, I am sorry for leaving you when you needed my comrades and I the most. It was heartbreaking for all of us when we were ordered out of Laos. It is enlightening to look around and experience how you have adapted to your new country and have flourished with the guidance of your beloved leader, General Vang Pao. I have met doctors, lawyers, educators, and leaders who have obtained this status from the educational and freedoms of our country and the country has offered you. I am truly able to see how the Hmong people have excelled and will continue to play an important part as America forges forward. How lucky we are as Americans to have the Hmong people among us. What a legacy General Vang Pao has left all of us. As a personal note, ever since I first arrived in Longchen, in my wallet I've carried a copy of this. It's entitled, War is Ugly. It shows General Vang Pao watching out over the plain of jars. And I believe this statement is what General Vang Pao felt as much as I feel today. War is an ugly thing, but not the ugliest of things. The decayed and degraded state of moral and patriotic feeling which thinks that nothing is worth war is much worse. A man who has nothing for which he is willing to fight, nothing he cares about more than his own personal safety, is a miserable creature who has no chance of being free, unless made and kept so by the exertions of better men than himself. Thank you. God bless you.
Mr. Chairman of the MC, there's an announcement for the food. And the food arrived, and we would like to see if our MC can speed up a little bit of our agenda in order for our guests to have time to participate in our dinner with us. And the food arrived is still warm. So I know that we run out of time, but we still have a few speakers, and we appreciate if the MC can speed the process a little bit so that we can have dinner soon. Thank you.
Bây giờ của sư sinh do hai lưu chuẩn gì đến đây là do General Ronald McCarrion, National Army Reserve. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker next will be General Ronald McCarrion, National Army Reserve. Trong hôm nay là thọ cha đồ bê trong lịch sử của nước cha hay thì mỗi chuyện này in nhau thà hành lời cho lấy chuyện họ đã lùi lên này thọ nên mua cái công tệ ở trong đâu.
Well, good afternoon. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to participate in this ceremony in honor of General Vang Pao. But let me begin by extending my condolences to Mrs. Vang and to the Vang family. You know, events like this are filled with mixed emotion. On one hand, we come here with a feeling of grief and sadness. But on the other hand, we reflect upon the accomplishments and the achievements and the tremendous things that the person we honor has done throughout their life. We've heard today from several sources that have indicated that they consider General Vang Pao one of the greatest combat leaders, not only in the Southeast Asian War, but in all military history. We also have heard reflections on his feeling of fatherhood, the George Washington of his people. a person that has great concern over the welfare of his fellow citizen. My first reaction and indication of this was when I first heard General Vang speak at a New Year's commemoration at the fairgrounds. And one of the things that he stressed to the younger Hmong citizens was, don't neglect your education. Take care of every opportunity to improve yourself for the future. And I think that admonition has paid off immensely as you reflect upon the accomplishments of your people. In a very short span of time, they have become leaders in the education field, in business, in the professional endeavors, and in government. Another passion of his was the welfare of his veterans. And of course, he pushed for the organization of the Lao Veterans of America. And that organization has done a tremendous job. I was privileged to have been at the first formation of the Lao Veterans at the City College football stadium a couple of decades ago. And then I went back east with them in what I call the invasion of Washington, D.C., where the Hmong soldiers stood in front of the Vietnam War Memorial on the Mall in Washington and heard speeches and presentations and congratulations by military and political figures of our country. And then that was followed by the visit to Arlington National Cemetery, where a memorial for the Hmong contribution during the secret war in Laos was formally dedicated. That was followed by what I call the assault on the Capitol, as hundreds, maybe thousands of Hmong soldiers dressed in their camouflage uniforms walked into the Capitol into a big reception. And I think a lot of people were taken by surprise and really learned for the first time who these people were and the contributions that they made and the leadership that was tendered them by their great military leader, General Vang. That was followed in a full front page color, as I recall, picture of the Hmong on the front page of the Washington Post newspaper. And I think that extended to everyone an image and a good understanding of the tremendous contribution that the Hmong soldiers had made to the war effort during the secret war in Laos. Well, these are some of the great things that we can keep in our memories for the work that was done by this great leader, this great humanitarian, this great father figure of the Hmong as he brought them to America and reacculturated here in our society. We're proud of them, and we're fortunate for what they have been able to accomplish. let me say this. General Vang Pao, we will never forget you. You will always be in our memory. You can be proud of the accomplishments that you have done. Your people are proud of you, and I especially am proud of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bây giờ khoa chư sinh yala hai lu nzi tận đây na ya General Richard II, Air Commander Association, represented by HOB. Bây giờ khoa chư sinh yala hai lu tận đây na ya General Richard II, Air Commander Association, represented by HOB, Attorney and former Reverend. He is represented by General Xyooj, so please welcome.
Sabari. My name is H. Onby. I am a Raven 2-6. I am here today representing and bringing you greetings from General Richard Xyooj. General Xyooj could not come because his wife is very ill. He sends his regrets at not being able to pay tribute to this very great man. General Xyooj personally operated in support of General Vang Pao from 1966 through 1967 and 8 and 9 while working for Bill Lair and the CIA. Part of the Air Commandos operated in support of Vang Pao from 1964 through the end of the war. General Xyooj states that General Vang Pao was the greatest general, period. General Vang Pao was a charismatic leader, militarily and politically. He united the Hmong tribes to resist the North Vietnamese incursions. General Vang Pao had a feel for the fight that was just uncanny. He started as a teenager, as you all know, in the French forces in the 1940s and the 50s, and then became a legendary commanding general who always led from the front. General Xyooj says that Vang Pao was badly wounded in the early 1960s, but came back stronger and better than before. The Hmong under General Vang Pao pinned down large NVA forces during the time U.S. forces were fighting the NVA in South Vietnam, thereby greatly aiding America. General Vang Pao pioneered the use of air power in coordination and support of unconventional forces. The Air Commando Association is presenting a wreath in General Vang Pao's memory. This is a very small token of the great esteem and love and the reverence that we all have for this truly great leader. I came here, obviously from my hair tone, I'm old enough to have been there, 1960s, 1970s. And I am pleased that I recognize so many aging faces, and I recognize so many voices that I used to hear on the radio. As I said, my name is Raven 26, or as so many of you called me, Leben Songhok. I stand before you today as merely a representative of the Air Commando Association, the ACA. Many of you may not know what the ACA is. You don't know it by that name. But you probably know the other names that are part of the Air Commando, the Ravens, of which I'm one, water pump, T-28s, training Chapakau and Rassasies, Herbert Field in Florida, AGOS, the Air Ground Operations School, the Lima sites, which were built by Air Commandos, T-28s, C-47s, AC-47s, C-130s, Spectre, combat control teams, the CCTs, AOCs like Jerry Ryan and General Heine Adderholt. All of those names are part of the Air Commandos. What did these Air Commandos do? Well, they built runways and facilities. Over the many years, they brought many places, such as Longchen, the busiest airport on this planet in the late 1960s and early 70s. They put in air navigation, TACAN. They put in communications facilities. They put in weather stations. They brought protection. They brought training. Many people in this room went to Herbert to learn those skills. In the end, the Air Commandos did one important thing. They made it possible for these men in uniform, for many of you, to have the support of American air power against the North Vietnamese invaders. There weren't that many. At Lima Site 20 alternate, Longchen, there might be 10. Down at Vientiane, because it's a big city, there might have been 20. Down at Udon, at Water Pump, there might have been 100 men and women. Worldwide, there might only have been 2,000 of us. But what an impact we can make. You never met most of these Air Commandos. In fact, VP probably never met most of the Air Commandos who supported him. But all of those Air Commandos, all of them, knew that they worked for this man, Vang Pao, and for you, the Hmong. They knew that. They believed in their job, and they are proud to have been your support. I want to tell you a little bit about the man that I knew, Vang Pao. He's a man, and he's a legend. We all know that. All of the Air Commandos knew about the legend. Some of them even met that legend. A few of them actually met the man, Vang Pao. I'm fortunate, I was one. The legend is a leader. He was born as a leader. You can't create those. He was a general. Again, you can't teach a general. They are born. He was a diplomat, uniting so many people in this room that 30, 50 years ago might not have been in cooperation with each other. And he was a father to his family and to all of us, including me and the other Ravens that were here. The man himself had a lot of characteristics, one of which is he was tough. I mean, he was tough. But he was tough on himself. He was tough on others. He demanded that you do your job and do it right, because if you don't, other people suffer. Warriors like this. I'm one of them. We like this in a person, being tough. But I'll tell you that Vang would never ask any of you or me to do something that he himself would not be willing to do. In fact, from what I learned of him, most of the things that he asked us is a necessity in a leader like Vang Pao, and he was. But he also was caring. I have watched him take care of his own soldiers, take care of the injured soldiers, take care of the people who were injured by the war itself, even not soldiers, take care of the families, the widows, and the children left behind. And he took care of his American friends. If an American went down on the ground in Laos and the Hmong could get to them, they would. There was never a question in our mind. I watched him when I was hurt, come to make sure that I was being taken care of. He was also a very understanding man. Probably was understanding because he had seen so much. There are few of us in this room, I'm not one of them, who have seen everything that Vang Pao had. First of all, as a teenager, fighting with the Japanese, fighting with the French, fighting with the communists. He had seen every aspect of war over and over and over again. He was understanding because he would listen. If you had an opposing point, if you had a new point, he would listen to you. He might disagree, but he would listen. And something else that's more important than anything as a general, he knew how to make a decision. And when he decided, he acted. Reliable. From somebody who comes from this country to go there to help, you expect the people that you find to be reliable, to not waste your sacrifices. And he was. He would say what he would do, and then he would do it. If he made you a promise, he would do everything that was humanly possible to keep it. The biggest thing about this man that I know of is he promised the king and the kingdom and the people in the mountains and the people in Laos, and he promised us that he would stand in those mountains and the North Vietnamese would not pass, and they never did. The only way that the North Vietnamese got to Vinh Chinh and to Luang Prabang was because of those who sit at desk and call themselves diplomats and politicians, those who are afraid to come on the battlefield like these men and like the Ravens. And they made a bargain that put the North Vietnamese behind our backs. Vang Pao never, ever let them pass. But reliability carries burdens. I watched two of those that I saw in him. It broke his heart that he could not stop the yellow rain and the mistreatment of those who remained in the mountains in Laos. And I know it broke his heart that he could not keep his promise to all of you and to me to take us home one day. I hope you can feel in your hearts how much this man that you call Father meant to us, those of us who worked with him and worked for him, and with you and worked for you as well. I want to say on behalf of all of us who are in Air Commandos, we want to thank you for sharing your father with us. It is us who feel honored to stand here today, for being a part of your father's life, for being here with the Hmong family today. The Air Commandos, many of them, paid a very heavy price. They pay the highest tribute to this man by doing those sacrifices. They pay this highest tribute to only two men in all of time. One was General Heine Ederholt. And that highest tribute is that we were willing to do whatever we had to do, including laying down our own lives in defense of General Vang in defense of the Hmong homeland. The other one was General Vang, and we still feel that way. Thank you.
Xin đầu của là khói họ là make correction, và ta từท่านให้พล4โคตร Richard 4โคตรตัวชิดาวยาลินเดจะ on B ที่นี่ตัว represent นึงนะจะตัวไฮลูนแล้วจะ on B นี่ชี้เอา4โคตรว่าจ้ะ Thank you ไปดูขวดชื่อเซ็งเป็นเดินกูอยากเอาตัวขวาว่าอยากให้ลูกแกตัวนู้นยังได้วันเดียวกูอยากชาตัวขวาให้ลูกตัวตอนเดินทำว่าลูกชาจะเท่าจะสื่อเนมบาในจอ elect official วิยลาวก็หลีกใจต่อก้าไปเกให้ลูกมานอนเนี่ยไปเจ้งตองที่ชาในวันเดียวทำเนมบาหลังจากเท่าจะสื่อในเฉลยว่าเจ้าไปดูขวาชื่อเส้นอยู่ละให้ลูกส่วนที่ตัดได้นะยอด Jerry Daniels family นี่ยออีตูว่าดอจินพงว่าลูกเท่านี้ตัวลูกเจงเที่ยวลาโมโตติเฉยไทยว่าจอดใจไปจนในมงตัวติเฉยนอ Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest speaker will be Jerry Daniels' family. Message of condolence by Gail Morrison. So please welcome.
Hello. I would like to read a condolence message written by Ferret Daniels on behalf of the family of Jerry Hogg Daniels. Many of you gathered here will remember Jerry since he worked with General Vang for many, many years at Longchang. The message begins with a quote from Albert Einstein. Our death is not an end if we can live in our children and the younger generation. For they are us, our bodies are only wilted leaves on the tree of life. Honor, pride, loyalty, and perseverance. I learned these traits watching my grandmother, Louise Daniels, my uncle Jerry Daniels, and General Vang as they took on the plight of the Hmong people, whether in Laos or Thailand or the U.S. All we ever heard from Jerry was how great a person Vang was and how he made Jerry's time in Laos a worthwhile cause. General Vang looked to the future of his people, their education and welfare. Some 4 decades later, a generation and a country lost, it would appear that the General's legacy will live on forever. His vision of freedom for his people in America is bearing great fruit, with many success stories. We are proud that Jerry and Louise contributed to Vang Pao and his family in their pursuit of happiness in our land. It has truly been an honor and blessing to the entire Daniels family. Our condolences. Ferret Daniels, on behalf of Jerry's brothers, Jack and Kent Daniels, and his nephews, Dieter and Ferret Daniels. And there's a final message from Jerry's brother Kent. He says, I'm pretty sure VP and Jerry's spirits are having a grand time wherever they may be. Thank you.
Thank you. 我知道，他插在医生级的这个家属，我那个人吧，我蒙个里给在 traditional， 被准确了一度 guest speaker 了一度，能就有了还轮子天还他，被说的我先被低别等等了。 yên này cho nhập đây để phải nên trả lại dọn ra hà nào là tao vì đó họ cho trong sành này chọn đủ là nó ở bên mong cái chỉ trả lại gì là nó ở thì lý sở bên sở đầu của chân đầu này cho chỉ tao trong giàu này thì trong giàu vậy. 但是呢，字母被抓阿杜、抓被杜，有了么孩子，同时把他模样写好，手机的都不添压着生命的所在。Rina Moran, see her is representing Rina Moran, Minnesota Representative 65A. Please welcome. Bên này lù cha đầu thâu sọ chua và hậu và thâu sọ chua và hậu và có lời sáng đầu lũ trong bao nhiêu chán tu sáng đầu lấy một đề nụ cú yo xì có tại xì nó bắt thà mà hậu ở trong đầu.
nhớ rằng ý chồng nhà gì cứ tin anh cha cứ lúc đây hùa xìa hơn nó lúc nào cứ soi trên the Minnesota State Representative Rina Moran thiếp với cái cho nó cho ua nhớ cho họ Minnesota sáng chi sáng lầu chế chúa thông Minnesota yêu chế cho tầm mong chống chạp lời nhớ cho họ tới Jamaica nó vì do linh tế sẽ hạt ở California yêu chế cho lo và bỏ là yêu Minnesota nhưng yêu chế cho nữ thiết vì do linh tế thầu nó hạt ở lo và bỏ tàu cho tới chơi là Representative Rina Moran thế lý sĩ hờ là một hai ý cho lũ hờ cho lo và bỏ nhớ cho họ Minnesota lũ chế chúa thôngต่อการแต่ลูกเจตัวช่างเทลิชีเตยจานแต่วันข้างนอกกุยมอนอย่างตัวเนกุยมอนหนึ่งอย่างวันลุงน้องเทลมีกาแต่ชีวันเตกุมอนหนึ่งหายลุงน้องเตเกี่ยวกับหายเอาไปละลุงแต่ไปแต่พงยืมมีกาว่าตัวกล่องเป้น้องนอ